So folks, Renee really knows what she's talking about on this. If her background doesn't impress you, what she's saying is absolutely right. We have one question that I thought was very interesting from someone saying, does any of this change for a small company? And I know what I answered him, but I also promised to ask you. So does any of this change for a small company?
For a smaller company, what is changing is the scope and the level. I mean, the core fundamental principles of cybersecurity goes across any organization, small, medium, and large. It's the implementation would change for the different size companies.
But in terms of processes, for example, should a small company be like, oh, I only have to do wargaming once a year because I'm small?
No, they should be doing it on a regular basis, because at the end of the day, whether you're a small, large company, the impact they can have by a security event, for a small company or medium-sized company, it can be actually even worse.
Bigger, yeah.
It can be bigger. The impact can be very bigger. It could basically put the company out of business. You may not be able to recover from it.
And the flip side is, though, you will have a much greater chance of having all the important people in the room and get them sucked into why this is the case.
Correct.
One of my clients, who is super high profile, I can't even hint at the name or industry, but not a huge company, did their first IRP wargaming exercise and discovered that flaw number one, the IRP was back on the SharePoint server that nobody could connect to. So nobody had any of the information they had so carefully compiled. That kind of thing, when the CEO notices that, tends to get some motivation behind it.
I have another good example of that. I had a technology, again, a company that I can't name names, but their incident response plan was actually stored on a server that was actually hit by ransomware. So their entire exercise plans could not be accessed.
Which, frankly, if I were a ransomware hacker, that's exactly what I'd go after. And that would make me really happy. I think I'd sit there and laugh.
Yep.
So for cybersecurity maturity assessment, what tool is best for financial firms, CAT or Profile? Or is there something else? That's a question that just came in. And
so that's a little bit tough question to answer, because
right.
Again, that would depend on each organization and the business. So I think that is more organizational driven.
Yeah, I mean, personally, and I'm biased, I would say a consultant is the best tool, but that may not be the answer that you would give. So I will cheerfully confess that that's biased. From your perspective, what should organizations look to prioritize first to, let's say they've listened to you, drunk the Kool-Aid, now what should I prioritize first?
So I think from my perspective, when you're looking at the adversaries, there's a couple things from my perspective that we're seeing that, for organizations to be focused on to help drive down some of that threat, first and foremost is really knowing who and what's on your network. So looking at that zero trust models.
So that asset discovery and management, kind of, hey, there's a theme here, guys?
Yep, I will tell you there's been organizations that have deployed network access control technologies and just put them in listening mode. And absolutely surprised by some of the assets that suddenly popped up on the network that really wasn't on that inventory list. So it can be eye-opening for organizations when they find that there's technologies that, systems on their networks that they didn't know exist. So that's definitely
That's
foremost.
The first actually good use for NAC I've ever heard of, because honestly, NAC is so complicated to deploy and it solves such a small component of the overall problem that I think it's a waste of time and energy largely. But I like the idea of putting NAC in listening mode. If you've got it, use it.
And then the other one I would say would definitely making sure your endpoint. Often the endpoint is one of the easiest and most targeted point of compromise by the adversary. So ensuring that you have that detection and monitoring capability. But it's just not, I'm not talking about malware. I'm talking about being able to do detection and response. If you've got to quarantine a device, you really have to be able to do that at network speed and scale.
Yeah, that device should not be able to connect to any resource, whether it's in the network or outside of the network, if it doesn't meet security, pass the security check. And that security check should be updated dynamically. And I think we just ran out of time again. So again, thank you, Renee. Will you be around for much of the time? Excellent. So she will be out at the Fortinet booth. Please go visit the booth. Again, virtually visit the rooms and show the love. But also, I would encourage you to take advantage of Renee's insight, because it's not an opportunity you always get. So thank you very much.